Kelly Senier, founder of the food and lifestyle site Just a Taste. And in this edition of DIY versus Buy, I'm going to be showing you how to make homemade fresh pasta using my KitchenAid stand mixer and pasta roller attachments. So I'm going to start by mixing together my pasta dough. I've just got about 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, which I'm adding to the bowl of my stand mixer. After the flour, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of water. You're aiming for about the consistency of a stiff Play-Doh. Next, I'm going to whisk together 2 large eggs. Add these to the bowl. And then we're going to add just a pinch of salt. And then I'm going to mix the dough together on the second speed, just until it starts to come together. So you can see the dough is just starting to hold its shape. And it's important not to overmix it or you're going to overwork the flour and your pasta dough is going to be really dense. And then I'm just going to gather the dough together in the bowl. You can see it's really holding its shape. And then I'm going to knead the dough for about 2 minutes. And the importance of kneading the dough is you really want to make sure that all of those ingredients come together. And then I'm going to use the heel of my hand and I'm just going to push into the dough and turn it about 90 degrees and continue kneading. And you want to do this for about 2 to 3 minutes. If the dough starts to stick to your worktop at any time, just add a little bit more all-purpose flour. This is looking great. It's getting a nice smooth top. And then this is the most important part when you're making pasta dough, is you want to let the dough rest for 30 minutes at room temperature. So I'm just going to wrap this in some plastic wrap and I'm going to stash it on the countertop. After the dough has rested, I'm going to divide it into 4 pieces. Just using a bench scraper, you could also use a chef's knife. And then you want to keep a little bit of extra all-purpose flour on hand because now it's the fun part. We're going to start rolling our pasta dough using the KitchenAid pasta roller attachments. And the great thing about these attachments is they actually fit any size KitchenAid mixer. So I'm starting with the roller attachment, and this is the one that has all of the different dials on the side, and I'm going to show you what those do. So this hooks right into here. And anytime you're making homemade pasta with the stand mixer, you always want to make sure that you're using speed setting number 2. And that's just fast enough to make sure that all of the pasta dough comes through the roller, but it's not too quick that it's going to tear. So we're going to go with speed setting number 2, and I've got my dial turned to number 1, and this is when the rollers are the furthest apart. And then as we kind of want to roll the pasta thinner and thinner, we're going to be going setting 2, setting 3, setting 4. So I've got setting 1, and I'm going to start with 1 piece of my dough here. And I'm going to use a little bit of all-purpose flour on top just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the rollers. And you want to kind of pat it into a rectangular shape, just so it's easier to feed through the rollers. Get my stand mixer going on speed 2, setting 1, and then we're just going to pass the dough right through. And when you're on setting 1, it's really important that every time you pass the dough through, you're going to be folding it into a letter shape. So it's going to go into thirds. What this is doing is it's laminating the dough layers on top of each other to make sure we get a really smooth pasta. And we go back through the rollers. After I've passed the pasta dough through setting number 1 4 to 5 times, I'm going to change my rollers to setting number 2. And then anything after setting 1, you don't have to fold it into thirds every time it passes through. And you're also only going to pass the dough through settings 2 onward 1 time each. Now we're going to go on to setting number 3. And lastly, I'm going to pass the dough through setting number 4. I'm doing a homemade fettuccine today, so the 4th setting is a great place to stop. You can also take it all the way to setting number 6. If you're doing a homemade lasagna, you actually don't have to cut the pasta sheets at all. You can just use them as is. But because I'm doing fettuccine, I'm going to go 1 more step. Setting number 4. So I have these gorgeous sheets of homemade pasta dough. I'm going to put this on a lightly floured baking sheet. So now I'm going to attach the fettuccine cutter onto the stand mixer, and this has all of these grooves in it, which is what's going to cut through the pasta dough and make our gorgeous fettuccine noodles. And again, we're going to be on speed setting number 2. My sheet of pasta dough, and through the roller it goes. How gorgeous is that? Fresh fettuccine. It just took a couple of minutes, and that's all it takes to make homemade fettuccine with the KitchenAid pasta roller attachments. If you're not going to cook this right away, you can actually shape it into nests by wrapping the pasta around itself and then storing it on a lightly floured baking sheet. And then you can put it into a pot of boiling salted water and it'll cook up to al dente perfection in 3 to 4 minutes. I'm Kelly Senier from Just a Taste, and that's all it takes to make homemade fresh pasta. We want to see your homemade fresh pasta creations, so snap a pic and share them with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the hashtag DIY versus Buy.